underrated, unwanted, but undeterred. That's how I would describe the journey for four-star quarterback Cam Kingsbury, a Virginia Tech recruiting target here in season number 1. Despite the talent that this kid clearly has at 6'4", 180, with very solid physicals, there's just not that much interest for him across the country. He's getting his fair share of scholarships, and there are teams that supposedly want him, but none of them, other than Virginia Tech, have prioritized him throughout this recruiting cycle. Kingsbury is one of the many prospects we're going to introduce ourselves to today as we become familiar with many of the faces in the very first recruiting class of the Virginia Tech Dynasty here on EA College Football 25. We're going to be watching film. We're going to be scouting all these guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. Currently, the team is 3-2. We beat Kansas in the last episode, and then we started our ACC slate losing at Louisville 34-19. That brings us to our bye week, which is when the recruiting special will be every year. And we will go through week 6 across the nation, so we will be covering some games. And I'm going to give you guys a stat update at the end of the episode for many of the top teams and players. As for us, Clyde Poole has been pretty much as advertised through the first 5 games of the year. It hasn't been perfect, but he has not turned the ball over. Our offense has been very clean, protecting the pigskin. However, I do want to see more consistency in the run game and more explosives through the air, and that's what we're going to really try to do going into our ECC play with Duke in the next episode at home. The offensive line has been pretty good, other than Dante Diamont, who I thought was going to be our best offensive lineman this year. And then defensively, not the most consistent, but our high-end talent has really stood out. Carmen Drake has been super impressive. Royland Mathis, the true freshman, has been awesome. Noah Singleton and DeBest World at linebacker, they've been great. But we're not forcing a ton of takeaways, only 2 interceptions. We have gotten a couple fumbles, including 2 forced and recovered by the freshman, Colby Cook. The special teams have been pretty solid, although we do need a new kicker since the current one, Ashton Lemon, is a senior. So our recruiting class is actually looking pretty good already. We've landed 5 prospects so far this year, all of whom are 4-stars. So we're doing a really good job here early in the recruiting cycle. Let's travel back in time a few weeks ago to our most recent home game, week 3 against Missouri. The 4 prospects who visited for the Missouri game were linebacker Amir Alba, tight end Gideon Zavala, edge rusher Fabian Bean, and linebacker Darrell Evanson. We were not doing well for any of these races. The only player we were in first place for was Alba, and even so, Georgia was catching up. However, 3 of these guys committed on the spot following this game. Running back Amir Alba, tight end Gideon Zavala, and edge rusher Fabian Bean all committed to the program following their visit in week 3 against Missouri. I'm not sure what those 3 guys would have gotten up to over the weekend, but clearly they had a really, really good time. So much so that they immediately joined the program. The following week, we got Ross Daniels, an edge rusher, and linebacker Darrell Evanson to commit to the program as well. So the 4 guys who visited for the Missouri game are all coming, along with Daniels. I don't know what types of shenanigans the upperclassmen probably did with those 4, but clearly it worked. They're describing the visit as a blowout, even though we only beat Missouri by 15. But I guess our offense putting on a show certainly helped. These 5 players give us a really good foundation for our first ever recruiting class, which is currently ranked in 10th. I wouldn't get worked up about early season recruiting rankings, but this is a great way to start the season, and hopefully we can add some more talented players with that group. However, I do not expect wide receiver Alexander Duck to be one of them. We had the lead on Duck for a while, but Maryland has passed us. Maryland seems to be getting more influence with the conference legend pitch, and he's visiting Maryland's campus this week. So we are not going to win this battle, which is unfortunate because he's got a cool name, and he's certainly a talented player. But I'm going to cut our losses. We're going to take him off the board now, and we are going to replace him with a different wide receiver, one who's a little bit taller. Duck is only 5'9", but Cesar Chavis from Opelika, Alabama, is 6'4", and I think we could use some size in the receiving room. So Chavis will be the new addition to the board, and now we have 35 prospects here ready to go over. That starts at the quarterback position. We hinted at him a little bit earlier with Cam Kingsbury. He's down to 3 schools. We've got a pretty big lead on him. He's visiting the campus this week during the bye week. I like our chances to lock him up. Quarterback is a huge need for us, of course, given that Clyde Poole is out of eligibility after this season, and I don't think we have our clear long-term starter on the roster. Nolan Roll, Gabriel Iguanagu, and Akeem Okafor will all compete to be the starter next year, but I'm not sold with any of them. We're going to go quarterback hunting in the portal as well. Look to add another veteran in the room, but to get a guy like Kingsbury who could be the long-term starter is really exciting. From Belmont, North Carolina, and South Point High School, he comes at 6'4", 186 pounds. Pretty strong arm. The accuracies, I think, are very advanced for a freshman. The athleticism and the improvising ability isn't elite, but I think it's pretty good. He is a playing time deal breaker that did not allow me to add any other quarterbacks on the board. I would have liked to have gotten 2 or 3 QBs in this class, but I like Kingsbury so much, it's worth it to only go after him as opposed to 2 or 3 players who I think are worse. We're currently going after 2 running backs and 1 fullback, including a player who's already committed and another player who locked us out because of his deal breaker. I think running back is a pretty big position of need for us. Mark Armstrong, only 1 more year of eligibility. He's been a little disappointing this year, although he has ramped things up. Esteban Cabrera has been a little bit of a dud so far. Ashwell Virgo's been good, but I think the lack of launch speed probably holds him back from ever being a long-term 1A out of the backfield. And then fullback's a need too, given Major League is currently a senior. We'll start with Amir Alba, who's already committed, the 25th ranked running back in the country from Mooresville, North Carolina, and Pine Lake Prep. North Carolina seems to be the state with the most prospects on the board, including Cam Kingsbury and Amir Alba. I would have expected it to be Virginia, Maryland, or even Pennsylvania, but North Carolina has a lot of talent for us. Alba was one of the guys who was on the Missouri visit. He and the rest of the gang clearly enjoyed themselves quite a lot. I like his skill set. 86 speed, 91 acceleration. I don't think he necessarily has elite speed per se, but I like his quickness. I like his physicality, 5'11", 186. But I think he runs bigger than his size suggests, especially if he bulks up at the next level. I think he really could have a lot of power and physicality as a runner, and I'm excited about his future, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some playing time as early as next year as a true freshman. And then Silas Sizemore, he is the playing style deal breaker. I'm confident that we're going to be able to get that above a C-, which is why I'm keeping him on the board. But for now, we cannot go after him at all. 5'10", around 210 pounds, big, bruising, old school type of back from the Woodlands High School in Texas, the same program that developed future NFL guys, including Antoine Winfield Jr. and Danny Amendola. He's a 3-star who has not gotten a lot of interest nationally, but I'm intrigued by this skill set, and once we're able to put points into him, I think he's a guy who can really benefit this offense. We're also going after Nick Morris, a fullback. Yes, fullbacks matter, people. Rivaldo Fairweather walked, so the next generation of fullbacks could run. That includes Morris from Suffolk, Virginia, and Naysmond River High School, the alma mater of Brandon Lau, interestingly enough. I like this kid a lot. I think he could potentially give us an interesting role on the offense. We haven't used our current fullback Major League a ton. I think we will more over the next few weeks, especially as a blocker. Let's move over to wide receiver. I think this is a position of need for the long term. As we take a look at the guys we currently have starting, it's a pretty veteran group, per se. Jontre Hickson is a senior. Nazir Ishmael is only a sophomore, but I think he's good enough to potentially leave school after his junior season for the NFL, so we might only have him for 2 more years. Trevor Adams has been a dog for us, but he's also only a junior. We've got some freshmen who I'm intrigued, currently being redshirted with Malachi Lavelle Jr., Tazar Camper, and Kalen Handy, but none of those guys are proven commodities at all. So I want to continue to go after guys at the position, and that starts with KK Alaka from Havelock, North Carolina, in Havelock High School. Week 7, I think, would be the perfect time to get him on campus, but he will already be visiting South Carolina, so unfortunately we can't have him come, which sucks because we're in first, but not comfortably. There's a lot of teams that want him, North Carolina and Duke right behind us. 6'5", sub 200 pounds. He has a really interesting build. I think he plays bigger than his weight, And being that he's an 18-year-old high school senior, he's going to continue to grow once he gets into a college football weight program. I think he really knows how to run his routes at his age. I don't think he has some necessarily elite tools, but I love the technicality he plays with at the position. Next up, we've got Stevie Molinaro, who has the playing time deal breaker, and as you can tell by some of the programs who are going after him, it's not the most prestigious list, with Ball State, San Diego State, who pulled their scholarship, and Purdue. So I think we would have the ability to overpower these schools if we want to. 6'1", 162 pounds from River Grove, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. Plays at Mount Carmel High School in Chicago, the alma mater of multiple notable NFL guys, including Donovan McNabb and Simeon Rice. The name of Molinaro's game is his speed. He can blow by just about anyone. He's super skinny, and like Alaka, he's going to need to get into a college weight room and add some bulk. I think he's a good route runner, though. For being a high schooler, he can really stretch the field vertically. Obviously, given his speed, I think his ability as a deep threat will certainly be a major advantage for whichever offense he joins. And I would expect he does contribute early on, given the schools that he's interested in. Then we get to Cesar Chavis from Opelika High School in Alabama. 6'4", 205. This is your jump ball, physical, contested catch guy. I think he's a good separator at his size. He made a really impressive play in this game. One of the coolest plays of the high school season. Breaks a tackle, breaks another tackle, juke move, hurdle, stiff arms the next defender before being pushed out of bounds. He is physical and he is tough to bring down. He is exciting after the catch. Got to improve as a route runner, though, and the athleticism, the speed isn't necessarily elite, but he makes up for it with his size and his really, really impressive catch radius and body control. These are three very different players. They all have very unique skill sets, very unique builds, and I'm curious to see how their collegiate careers go. As we move over to tight end, certainly a big need for us. We were able to get Brandon Marbury in the transfer portal from USC. I think he's been pretty good, but he's a senior. He's out of eligibility. Tevison Jackson's made some nice plays over the last couple of weeks, but do we feel comfortable with him starting? Not convinced with any of the youngsters we currently have on the roster. So landing Gideon Zavala was a huge deal for us. This is a big get. I didn't think we were going to get him up until our great visit against Missouri, LSU, and Washington really going after him. Now, unfortunately, we can't scout him. We haven't scouted him yet because of our recruiting house rules, and we can't scout players who have committed to school. So I guess we're going to have to wait until the end of the year to really see how good he is. He is 6'3", 230 pounds from Rancho Cucamonga High School. A lot of recent NFL draft picks, including C.J. Stroud, went there. Good hands. He's gritty. He's tough after the catch. Not an elite athlete, but I think he's good enough. And then these two guys are both JUCO players with Grant Matlock and Alonzo Clay, both JUCO sophomores. Given that we kind of need a tight end who can start potentially, I wanted to look for some older guys at the position, and that starts with Matlock. He is from Virginia Beach, so a local guy, currently playing for Lackawanna College in Pennsylvania. They've developed a lot of NFL players. Jaquan Brisker, Jair Brown, Kevin White, Kaiser White. I didn't know Kevin and Kaiser White were related until I did the research for this video. He is not an elite athlete and doesn't have any one skill that he's great at, so I don't think the ceiling is particularly high. But at the very least, I think he could be a good player to have in the tight end room. And then we get to Alonzo Clay, a JUCO sophomore from Long Beach, California, currently playing at Coffeyville Community College in Kansas. They play in the Kansas Jayhawk Athletic Conference, which made me smile when I saw it. He is also the gritty possession archetype. That's what all three of the tight ends on the board are. And he's also coming from a school that's developed NFL guys. James Carpenter, who was a first-round draft pick. Brandon Jacobs, Reggie Nelson, Paul Soliai. So both of these JUCO schools have developed guys who ended up playing at bigger programs and ended up being successful at the next level. Let's move to the offensive line. I think the offensive line's actually in a pretty good spot for us in the long term. We've got a lot of youth there, but you never want to neglect the line. We've still got some good players here on the board. Kingston Carter expected to come back from injury next week against Duke. Emmanuel Forboni's a good young player. Dante Diamant has struggled, but he is still the most proven of our offensive linemen. And then young guys like Mikhailov, Redfield, and Famoa Toa at tackle, all players who could be starters in the future. Not to mention the other true freshmen like Harrison Hammonds, who's starting at left guard. Miles Burner, who's being redshirted at center. There's a lot of young talent on the offensive line, but it never hurts to add more. We've got two tackles with Malcolm Boone and Vince Timms. Two very close recruiting battles, but two very different players in my opinion. We have the lead for Boone. He's visiting this week during the bye week, so hopefully that can be enough to push us over the edge compared to NC State, but it's going to be close. I think Boone is ready to go right away. This guy is super well-rounded. He has no weaknesses. I think he's one of the 3 or 4 best players on the recruiting board from Independence High School in Whitefield, North Carolina. Look at the skill set. He can pass block, he can run block, he can face off against power rushers, he can go against the quicker guys. I think he's going to be a really good power conference starter, possibly as soon as his freshman season. He is as polished of a tackle recruit as you will find. And then Vince Timms. We're losing ground on this battle. Clemson has taken the lead in a full-on recruiting battle. Unlike the wide receiver Duck, I'm keeping him on the board because he is visiting this week, so I am a little bit hopeful that maybe that can push us over the edge compared to Clemson. He is from Lawrence, South Carolina, plays at Riverside High School. He's very different to me to Malcolm Boone because he's nowhere near as polished. I think his rating as a freshman is going to be a lot lower, but I think the physicals and the strength is a little bit more impressive, and that probably gives him a higher physical ceiling, which is why a team like Clemson is really excited about the possibility of developing him. We're also in a tight race with NC State for 4-star guard Javon McLeod from Malden High School in Malden, South Carolina. I think he's a guy we're going to have visit Week 7 against Duke, look to seal the deal on this recruitment. NC State has him coming in Week 13. I don't really know why. Kind of a pointless visit. But I like McLeod's game. I think this is a guy who's got really intriguing physical upside. He struggles against some of the quicker, faster defensive linemen, but kicking him inside to guard, he's not really going to have to play against the 250-pound edge rushers who run 4.5s. So I think having him as an interior offensive lineman will really fit him best, and I think he could be a good player sooner rather than later. I am going to take the points off of him for now, though, because we're going to need to scout some more guys, but I'll put those back on later. Then we get to these 3 stars. We'll start with Maka Putu from Hilo, Hawaii. He plays for St. Louis School in Hawaii, a decorated high school football program who have brought in guys like Marcus Mariota, Tua Tagovailoa, Jeremiah Masoli, Roman Wilson, Jonas Savainaya at offensive line. I think Putu's a real diamond in the rough. He is listed as a gem, which is pretty exciting. He actually is currently rehabbing at a JUCO school. He got injured in his senior season at St. Louis. So rather than signing with a program, he's decided to go to a JUCO program with a coach he's very comfortable with. He's rehabbed, and teams have kind of forgotten about him, but I think he's really, really talented. And then Frederick Stacy, another local guy from Virginia Beach. He is also a gem, playing at Booker T. Washington High School, the alma mater of the NFL's all-time sack leader, Bruce Smith. 6'4", around 290 pounds. I think this is a guy who's probably not going to find the field early on. As you can see by his skills, he is really raw. But I think he could be quite good down the line. He's a very solid pass protector. And then we have no centers on the board. We do have a lot of players at edge. I think we have 8. We don't have any defensive tackles, and the thought is some of these players could maybe kick inside. But a lot of defensive linemen, a lot of edge rushers we're going after because edge is a big need for us. We have a 4-man rotation of Jensen Diglio, Quincy Akindele, Carmen Drake, and Xavier Haynes. But these guys are all upperclassmen. Haynes is a senior. Diglio is a senior. Drake is probably off to the NFL. And we don't have a lot of edge rushers behind them. I like Kawan Stewart, especially as a guy who could kick inside, but he is still pretty unproven. We're better off at the defensive tackle spot, given that Royland Mathis looks awesome. Elite development. He's played really well so far. Geronimo Rodriguez and Braylon White also have multiple years left of eligibility. So we're looking for edge rushers more than typical defensive tackles for now. We'll start with Ross Daniels from Shelby, North Carolina, playing at Shelby High School. 6'5", 240. He's a guy who I don't think is going to play a lot next year. The idea is that he's going to bulk up and probably move inside because he wins with a lot of power, a lot of strength. He's not the quickest, so because of that, I don't think he necessarily fits long-term as an edge rusher, even though he's built in terms of his size like one. So I think he needs to gain some weight, develop that way, and I think he'll be better used probably inside as a defensive tackle. And then Fabian Bean is a little bit of a wild card because, as you can see by the deal breaker playing style, needs a C+, currently a D+. So he is a D-commit candidate. The hope is that we can get it up to a C+ by the end of the year, although there is a chance he would decommit earlier than that, which would not be ideal because I really want this guy. We had to work hard to beat Miami for him. Obviously, the visit in Week 3, the biggest reason why we ended up winning. He plays for St. Thomas Aquinas High School, a prestigious program in Florida. A lot of NFL guys, particularly off the edge. Dallas Turner, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa. They know how to develop their pass rushers over there. Let's take a look at some more highly ranked 4-stars. We'll open up with Deshaun Rawlings from West Charlotte High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's a top 50 player nationally, but there's not a ton of interest in him. I think it's because as a pass rusher, he's just really raw. Good run defender, could be an early downs guy. The pass rush moves are just not there yet. So I don't know if he's going to play a lot early on, which you kind of hope for the 45th ranked prospect in the nation. But I think with some development, he could be pretty good. And then Niles Colclaw from Globe, Arizona, South Ponce Catholic High School. Bijan Robinson went there. We're going to have him visit in Week 7 as well. He's going to be at Arizona this week. Texas is in the mix as well, and maybe Bijan's influence could help him go there. So I'm hoping we have a good visit against Duke and that he'll ultimately commit after the game. His pass rushing skill set is also very raw. Very similar to Deshaun Rawlings. I don't think he would play a lot next year. I just don't really think he's ready. I don't think he has the size to kick inside either. He's only 223 pounds. So he's just really got to improve his technique as a pass rusher. And he's got a ways to go in that department. But again, the upside I think is quite high. Stephen Fina I think is a lot more ready to go than both Rawlings or Colclaw. We have the lead over Tulane and Duke. He's visiting this week during the bye. And I'm hoping he is a good enough visit to commit following this week. Even though he's listed as a bust, I think he's a lot more polished than both Rawlings and Colclaw. He can really win with speed off the edge. He's a little bit of a one-trick pony, but at least he's got a go-to pass rush move. Playing at Provo High School in Provo, Utah, not exactly a local guy. Doesn't really seem like he wants to stay near home with Tulane and Duke also in the mix. We've got some 3-stars down here with Earl Azur, Alan Tiffin, and Jalen Hunter. We'll start with Azur from Midlothian, Virginia, currently playing at Manchester High School. He could visit this week if we wanted him to, but it's a one-horse race. I think we're kind of a lock to get him. He wins with power. I like his size at 6'6", 250, and I like the power profile. I think he's an easier projection than some of these 4-stars we're going after, even if he doesn't have as high of a long-term ceiling. I see a quicker roll for a guy like him compared to both Rawlings and Colclaw. Alan Tiffin, like Fabian Bean, has the playing style deal breaker. Now, I'm a little bit less worried about him because we have more time to right the ship with this deal breaker since he hasn't committed yet. He doesn't really have any get off the edge, which is unfortunate for a guy who's 217 pounds. He's really undersized right now. He can move a little bit. He can go out in coverage, as you can see in that clip. Got to get stronger, though. Got to be a little bit more productive against the run. I think he's got a ways to go in his development. But I think if nothing else, he's an intriguing body who could be pretty good. And then we get to Jalen Hunter, who's a fascinating case from Palmyra, Virginia, plays at Fluvanna County High School. He's the lowest ranked of the 8 edge rushers on the board, the 999th player nationally. He's the 3rd lowest ranked player on the entire board. The scouts are not onto him at all. Yet I think he is really good. He's probably the most polished of all the edge rushers we're going after. 78 finesse, 78 power. He's got a very diverse and balanced pass rushing toolbox. He's the biggest of the edge rushers at 6'4", 276. He's the most athletic of the edge rushers, 80 speed, 82 acceleration, 89 strength. I don't know what I'm missing with Jalen Hunter. He checks off a lot of boxes that pretty much everybody else that we're going after does not. There has to be something I'm missing. No other schools are going after him. No other teams seem to be excited. But I think he's a real diamond in the rough that's going to prove to significantly outperform his ranking. We've got 5 linebackers on the board who are all very different to the players we currently have. The previous coaching staff clearly had a type at the linebacker position with these bigger, old-school, physical guys. Corbin Roll, 6'2", 250. Noah Singleton, 6'2", 230. The Best World, 6'3", 251. These guys are big, physical tacklers. Grimes and Story, 230 pounds as freshmen with room to grow. Omani Hickens a little smaller at 6'1", 213, but otherwise, these are very big linebackers on the team. So we've kind of prioritized some smaller guys, some guys who can really run, some guys who can really cover, but have overall diverse skill sets. And that starts with Darrell Evanson from Miami, Florida, and Monsignor Edward Pace High School. Shamar Stewart went there. Coach Teamer Sr. obviously has ties to the South Florida area, given that Cornell Teamer Jr. was from Miami. Now, we're not able to scout Evanson like the tight end Zavala, given that he's already committed. He came on the Week 3 visit, clearly had a great time, loves the program. I really thought Oregon was going to get him, but that visit ended up being the difference. What's cool about Darrell Evanson is that he's teammates with Tyron Dutton, who also plays at Monsignor Edward Pace High School. So I'm hoping that Evanson is in Dutton's ear to try to come here. Dutton is a 5-star, the only 5-star on the board, so this kid is the real deal. He is the highest-ranked prospect we're going after, and as I look at his scouting profile, I see a world where this kid plays as a freshman. He's athletic, he's good enough in coverage, I think he can really defend the run. 6'2", 213 pounds, so a little bit on the smaller side again. Him and Evanson are not the biggest, and I think they have very similar skill sets, so it's easy to pose the question of how are they going to complement each other and share the field at the same time? But if they can do it on the same high school team, why not stay on the field together at Virginia Tech? They've done it before. And then we get to Lawrence Rossi from Norfolk, Virginia, plays at Norview High School. He has the playing time deal breaker, which we originally did not fit when we had a bunch of linebackers on the board earlier in the year. Most of those guys have been taken off since. We've kept Rossi, though, because there isn't a lot of interest in him. His recruitment's gone pretty slow, even though he is a highly ranked 4-star. He is listed as a bust, and I think he's got a ways to go, but I think he's got good instincts in coverage. I wish he was a little bit more athletic as a cover linebacker, but I think he's got good instincts around the ball. Chester Ream from Pinson, Alabama, Pinson Valley High School. Bo Nix and Tez Johnson went there, my glorious Kings. I think Chester Ream is going to be one of the best players on the board. 6 foot, 240 pounds, so he is kind of the old school, bigger, physical back, but he's one of the more athletic linebackers we have on the recruiting board as well. He's not a great cover guy, so I definitely see him more as a hybrid linebacker to edge type. I think he's got the strength and physicality to play on the edge occasionally. And then RJ Jordan, very similar build, 6 foot, 236. I didn't really think we were going to have a chance in this battle, but teams like Texas A&M and Oklahoma have slowed down their recruitments for him, bringing us in the race. He's not listed as a thumper. He's listed as a signal caller, which intrigues me. At his size, he's a bigger guy, but this tells me that he can probably cover a little bit, and his awareness is pretty high for a freshman, a really talented 4-star. So I like both him and Ream a lot, and I'm hoping that we can get at least one, maybe both of those guys. Let's move over to the secondary now. Mostly 3-stars we're going after. There's only 1 4. A lot of the players we went after early in the year have gone in other directions. I think corner is certainly a position of need for us. Elihu Gold's a junior. Jair Hill is a junior. We do have some really solid young guys. Samson Abbott, sophomore. Smoke Lewis, true freshman. Elite development. He's gotten a little bit of run over the last couple of weeks and has been pretty good. Caleb Fleming, star development. I'm going to try to get him on the field. And then at safety, Justice Watkins and Colby Cook look like long-term starters, but we rotate our safeties in and out. Darius Penny obviously plays a big role. We're only going to have one more eligibility year for him. And then guys like Teron Morrison, he's played quite a bit. Mario Borkovici, he had a big penalty in the loss against Louisville, but a guy I still like as a freshman. So long story short, the amount of depth we have matters because we rotate a lot of defensive backs in there, so we need a lot of guys who can play. We will start with Ian Cloud, the only 4-star defensive back who we're currently looking for from Florence Christian High School in Loris, South Carolina. BYU is actually the leader in the doghouse currently. I'm not going to fully scout him because I've pretty much run out of points. So we're going to do 1 scouting for all the remaining players so we can at least look at their general skill set. Cloud is around 5'11", really athletic, really fast. The speed is certainly the first thing you notice when you pop on the tape and watch him. He can fly. I think his coverage is a little bit raw, but I do think he has the physicality to play on the outside, even at 177 pounds. Certainly going to need to bulk up a little bit, though. Then we get to Clayton Peppers from Waldorf, Maryland, plays at Westlake High School. Again, I'm a little biased towards Westlake, given that was our series on the channel for like 3 years. I think his coverage ability is really not much worse than Cloud right away. I just don't think he necessarily has the same athletic tools that a guy like Ian Cloud does. 5'10", 192, so a little bit shorter, but also a little bit bigger in terms of his weight. Rashawn Burton from Williamsport, Pennsylvania, plays at Williamsport Area High School. He's big, 6'1", 186 pounds. You cannot teach the size that he comes with. He is very instinctive in zone coverage. I kind of see him more as a safety, though. I don't know if he's going to have the athleticism and the speed to match up with the fast receivers of the ACC. So to me, he's a safety. He's got the size for it. He's got the zone coverage ability for it. I could see a position change if we get him. And then Carlos Ruer from Pahokee, Florida, plays at Pahokee High School. Anquan Bolden went there. I would argue he is the most physical upside of the corners on our board. 6'2", 190. He is large. He's big. He's athletic. And I think his cover ability, there's a lot of exciting flashes with him. So even though Ian Cloud is maybe 150, 200 spots ranked ahead of him, I think Ware is the guy at the cornerback position who really has the ceiling to be excited about. At safety, we're going after two. We'll start with Trey Masonette from Cornelius, North Carolina, and William Amos Halk High School. He is a box specialist. I like the versatility that he comes with. I do think he can play center field, deep zone coverage safety if needed. With a guy like Justice Watkins here, he's not going to surpass Watkins on the depth chart, but he can do it. I like the athleticism. I like the size. That leads me to believe that his versatility will continue to be a big part of his game moving up to the next level. Then we get to Tucker McPhee from Montvale, New Jersey, transferred to Bergen Catholic, a big program just outside of New York City. Very similar build and archetype to Masonette. These two guys are really similar. He's also around 6'1", 181 pounds, also listed as a box specialist. I think he's a little bit worse in coverage, though, compared to Masonette, so he's probably not going to stick at free safety. And then last but not least, special teams. We do have a kicker on the board, given that our current kicker, Ashton Lemon, is a senior. This is KC Swinger from Irmo, South Carolina, and Dutch Fork High School. Jalen Hyatt went here. Tyler Bass went here, another kicker. He is the second-ranked kicker in the nation. He is of the accurate archetype, but I like his power. Multiple kicks this year beyond 50 yards, so he's got the leg to get it there. And if we get him, which there's nobody else currently going after him, then I think he could very easily be our starting kicker next year and beyond. He could be this series version of Anthony Escalante. So that's our recruiting board as it stands now. 5 commitments currently with Amir Alba, Gideon Zavala, Darrell Evanson, Ross Daniels, and Fabian Bean. We have a number of guys who are down to 3. Vince Timms in a very competitive recruiting battle with Clemson. Cam Kingsbury, we have the edge on, visiting this week with Timms. I'm hoping Kingsbury can get in Tim's ear so they both end up coming. Offensive tackle Malcolm Boone also visiting this week. NC State's in the mix. Duke is kind of in the mix. This is definitely not a battle that we've won yet, but I think we're in a good spot. I would say 75-25 we land him. Javon McLeod's coming to the campus next week. I'm hoping that'll be enough. Niles Colclaw will also be coming to campus next week. He's down to 3. We have a comfortable enough lead, but I think Texas could change that. I'm hoping Colclaw and Stephen Fina can both commit. That would mean we would have 4 edge rushers already this year. And then we only have a couple guys at 5 with Earl Azur and KK Alaka. Again, I was really hoping we could get Alaka to visit next week against Duke, but they'll be elsewhere, so we cannot get him to come. He might visit week 9, but his commitment also might be done by then. I want to continue to put points into some of these guys who are even lower, like Chester Ream is a player I want to prioritize. Tyron Dutton is a guy, obviously, is a 5-star. Jalen Hunter, I know he's not the highest ranked, but Clemson's on his list. Alabama's on his list. I'm worried one of those schools might see the talent with him and come in and get him because he's not a guy I would want to lose whatsoever. So we're going to simulate the week. Moving into week 7, we're going to see if we get any new commitments, and we do land a couple. Quarterback Cam Kingsbury is officially coming to Virginia Tech. He had a good visit. He's joining the program, and he will be in the mix for the starting quarterback spot next year. Offensive tackle Malcolm Boone will also be coming to the program. I'm really excited about him. Super well-rounded. He's going to compete to be a starter right away. And then Stephen Fina. Tulane wanted him. Duke wanted him. But we got the edge on him. So that's 3 new commitments. That's 8 players. Well, I should say 8 for now. because unfortunately, Fabian Bean has decommitted. He's going to Miami. So we obviously do not fit the playing style deal breaker, and he is decommitted immediately, just a few weeks after coming here. Vince Timms is going to Clemson. That's not as surprising. I kind of expected that. Losing out on Bean, though, really sucks. He's a guy I really wanted. I think he's a lot better than some of the higher-ranked edge rushers we're currently going after. Now, theoretically, he could decommit from Miami because of the deal breaker, but he would not come to us. We're in, 10th place for him. It is over for Fabian Bean coming here. Alexander Duck officially goes to Maryland. They are one spot ahead of us. I still like the way the class is looking, even without Fabian Bean. Two really good edge rushers, a talented linebacker, and then some intriguing guys on offense, including a quarterback in Cam Kingsbury, who I'm really high on. We also have 435 points now with all the scouting and all the guys who have committed. That was 5 recruitments that ended this past week. So a lot of points have opened up for us. Let's cover some games across the rest of the country. We'll start with Duke, who we're playing against this week. They hosted the Stanford Cardinal. Stanford just got upset by Arkansas State. They're looking to clap back with senior quarterback Isaiah Timpf, and they certainly did so. They won this game fairly convincingly, 40-16. Really nice play here after the catch by Lonnie Block, the sophomore receiver who has really become a good player this year for Stanford. He looks like a future NFL prospect. As for Duke, they were dealt a bad hand. Their starting quarterback, Mark Ullery, injured, did not play this week, will not play this upcoming game against Virginia Tech. The backup, Darren Hoke, had a pretty good game as a runner, but not so much as a passer. As for Stanford, really good showing for Isaiah Timpf, looking to rebound after a bad game against Arkansas State, completed around 75% of his throws. Certainly looks like a guy who easily makes an argument to be one of the earlier drafted quarterbacks this upcoming April. Louisville, they just beat us. They're already 3-0 in ACC play, facing off against a Georgia Tech team who's been a pleasant surprise this year. They had the upset against Texas Tech earlier. That game has proved to age well. Texas Tech's playing some good ball. And Georgia Tech would continue their impressive campaign. This rushing touchdown by quarterback Rodney Aragon would help them seal the deal and get the win. Georgia Tech's a team we're going to see later in the year, and these guys have been impressive. 30-27 against a really good Louisville team. Aragon, efficient through the air. Good game on the ground for the Yellow Jackets. These guys did not have a high rating. They've struggled in recent years, but they're playing really well right now. Jameel Angerer, 2.5 yards per carry after 150 yards last week against us. Number 4, Georgia, taking on Oklahoma. The Sooners certainly have disappointed so far this year. They ended up playing a really competitive game against Georgia. I'll give them credit, but it was not enough. Hoppy Reynolds, the junior, has played like one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and that would continue in this game, leading the Dogs to the win over Oklahoma, 38-30. These two teams are really interesting because they have two very talented quarterbacks who have very opposite problems. For Reynolds, the production's been elite since his true freshman year at Florida and then the last 2 years at Georgia. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the country. His production warrants a first-round draft pick. But he's 5'11", 185 pounds. He's not built like an NFL quarterback. That's obviously a problem, and NFL teams are certainly keeping a note of that. And then with Wyatt Cruz, it's the complete opposite. The physicals are better than any quarterback in the country. 6'4", rocket arm, great speed. The production has not been there, although he did have a good game today. Pitt heads to South Bend, facing off against Notre Dame. It's been a tough start to the year for the Panthers, albeit they've played a brutal schedule. Notre Dame, meanwhile, has played as well as anybody, and that's been because of the performance of senior quarterback Brennan Holloway, who has, in my opinion, been the best quarterback in college football. He's a 4-year starter at Notre Dame. He's played a lot of football. The issue with him coming into the year was the turnovers, and he has severely cut down on those, helping Notre Dame win this game 49-20. Holloway, 5 touchdowns through the air, along with 368 yards. There's no quarterback playing better than him right now, in my opinion. And not only has he risen his draft stock, but I think he's risen it to QB1 at this moment in this draft. And obviously things are going to change. That's far from a lock. But this feels like a Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels rise in the sense that both of those guys were kind of seen as like, 4th round, middle of the draft guys going into the year. And then they shoot up and are top picks. Go-Go Lance played really well. He's become one of the best receivers in the country. Jaquarian Spencer did not throw an interception. That's been his issue this year. Pitt, meanwhile, falls under 500. They're 2-3. We'll get to see them in a couple of weeks. USC's up to number 9, undefeated, playing some great ball. Headed to Eugene against number 21, Oregon, coming off a loss last week. And the story of this game was senior running back Dylan Bellamy, who scored 3 times for the Trojans, helping them get the win over Oregon. USC started the year unranked, and I had them as a sleeper team in the Big Ten. That was proven right. They're number 8 now, 42-30 over the unranked Ducks. Luca Resende is just not that impressive. He's not that good. Oregon is the only team in the Kansas Dynasty last year who made the playoffs all 5 years. I have a feeling that streak will not be carrying over to this series. I just don't think this team is good enough. Jackson Jackson's been pretty good for USC, although he didn't have his best game today. Bellamy, though, was the star of the show. He was really solid for the Trojans. And then Eli Drake at wide receiver, certainly a name to watch out for through the NFL. SMU's been scheduling all these really good teams, and they're beating everyone. They beat Clemson. They beat LSU. They have beaten some really strong opponents. But this is their biggest test. Number 1, Miami. And sure enough, SMU did not beat Miami. They embarrassed Miami. They walked into the Hurricane Stadium and blew them out. Miami was up 14-3 at half. SMU outscored them 39-0 in the second half, winning this game 42-14. Nobody is playing as well as SMU right now. These guys are balling. Graham Glikowski, who was, I think, first place in the Heisman race, did not play well, completed less than 50% of his passes. Marquise Maryland, only 34 yards. Tyree Wells, honestly, kind of a quiet game compared to what we've seen in recent weeks. He's had a phenomenal year. Everybody getting the love through the air. Travis Foss leads the way in yards, while Parker Zasko scored twice. Texas Tech is a really good team. They lost to Georgia Tech earlier in the year, but Georgia Tech has proven to exceed expectations. They're playing against an undefeated UCF team. The Knights looking to shock the world and show that they are a legitimately good team. They didn't quite do that today. Texas Tech walked into their trap and took over their trap. What a catch here by Jordan Nelson, helping the Red Raiders win 44-0. Texas Tech is clearly one of the best teams in the Big 12. Them and Oklahoma State, to me, are the obvious frontrunners. Colin Westwood played quite well. Jordan Newton, the big transfer from Tulsa, he's been disappointing this year. We've been waiting for him to really have his coming out party, and I think he did today. Jonathan Pluto, the freshman, did not have a great game for UCF. NC State has been a pleasant surprise this year. They did lose to Michigan last week, but they kept it competitive and have beaten some good teams otherwise, such as Pitt and San Diego State. Florida State, meanwhile, has been the opposite. They have not been impressive this year. However, they put up a show offensively, scoring 49 points against the Wolfpack. I think we may have overrated NC State, and I think we may have wrote off Florida State a little bit too soon. Where has Derek Bowen been all year? He threw for 5 touchdowns. And then Denzel Bond, who I thought was going to be one of the best backs in the country. He's been quiet this year. Ran for $143 today. Where has this been all season? Micah Humble was not bad. Not as good as he has been throughout the year. One of the best quarterbacks in the ACC. And then last but not least, some action. Central Michigan and Akron. Why exactly am I covering this game? Well, I think these are two of the best group of 5 teams in the country. Akron ended up winning 31-17. Denny Love with a great throw into the end zone for Jamal Cain Cervantes. Both of these teams have some studs at quarterback and at wide receiver. Akron with a big showing in the 4th. Denny Love, 3 touchdowns, 331 yards. He's having a great year. And then wide receiver, Jamari Cain Cervantes, 90 overall, 6'6". Theo Paris is really good. Karma Bayless, 92 overall. He's 6'6". They've got the Twin Towers on the outside. Central Michigan is a good sophomore quarterback, Peyton Curry, but he is hurt for this game. He didn't play. Their top receiver, though, Savion Bolton, was pretty solid. Let's take a look at some other scores. Memphis is now ranked. They beat UTSA. Penn State back on the win column. They beat Iowa. Michigan now number 7, defeating Wisconsin. Florida with a big win over Missouri. Couple of true freshmen starting at quarterback for both teams. Arizona State now number 6. Alabama bounces back. They beat Texas A&M. Oklahoma State over Baylor. The USF offense continuing to ball out. They score only 45, a little bit less than last week against East Carolina. Washington over Illinois. The Illini have been really disappointing this year. Clemson is back ranked. Ohio State finally with a big win. They've been super vulnerable this year. They beat Rutgers by 41. They needed that. In the ACC, Boston College over Wake Forest. I like Boston College. I think they're underrated. Syracuse over Virginia. The Cavaliers fall to 2-4. And then looking at some other scores across the nation. Rice puts up 35, led by their standout running back, Cameron Christmas. We're going to talk about him and some other stars in a little bit. Toledo, 56. LSU, who was 1-4 coming into the week, beats Kentucky 45-7. They needed that win bad. Arizona with a good victory over Colorado. Kansas with a nice win. East Carolina puts up 52. I don't know if there's a better offense in college football right now than East Carolina. Those guys are moving it down the field. UConn over Kansas State. Love to see the Wildcats go down, although UConn's just kind of good. They're scheduling all these good teams, and they're playing well against them. I can't really explain it. Temple, meanwhile, 4-1. They've got one of the better small school quarterbacks with Maxwell Logan. As we look at the rankings, we have a new number 1. The Vols did not play last week, but they're back at the number 1 spot. They are headed to the SIP to play number 10 Ole Miss. I'm excited about that game. I don't think Ohio State should be number 2. Georgia, Notre Dame, and SMU have all clearly been better. I think those 3 teams and Tennessee are the clear top 4 teams in college football right now. Ohio State should not be number 2. We're still not getting votes, as expected. Players of the week, Dwayne Michaud. 2 fumbles forced and 4 recovered. My goodness. And then Julian Hero, the East Carolina quarterback, continuing his amazing season. As for the ACC, we've got Trent Higgins of Ole Miss and Alfonso Allen of SMU. Julian Hero was already in first place for the Heisman Watch, so he's going to keep his spot, obviously, but a lot of movement otherwise. Brendan Holloway in second place, well-deserved. Matthew Murray in the mix. Tyree Wells, also very well-deserved. And then Denny Love of Akron, the redshirt junior lefty, is in 5th. I want to take a quick look at some stats across the country just to see where we are in terms of the top guys, in terms of the top draft picks. And starting at quarterback, as I said earlier, I think right now Brendan Holloway is QB1. He leads all starters in terms of passer rating. I think if Hoppy Reynolds was bigger, he'd be right in the mix. Probably ahead of Holloway, but he's small, so that's certainly going to push his stock down. In terms of quarterback rating, next up is Carson Mayfield and Kamari Fisher. They're both draft eligible, but I think these are guys who stay at school for another couple of years. I think in terms of this year's draft, Isaiah Timpf is probably in the mix with Holloway for QB1. I think Kieran Riddle at Alabama, with his physicals, the way he's played this year, he's in the mix. Julian Hero, if he sticks around and wins the Heisman Trophy, he's kind of in the mix. He's also 5'11", but he's 215 pounds. He's 30 pounds heavier than Hoppy Reynolds, so that's one less major hurdle to climb. Tyree Wells is a junior, but I think he probably leaves after this year, so he's in the mix in terms of the top quarterbacks. And then Zarius Stone at Ole Miss as well. At running back, Kyle Mays, the leader in the doghouse, 6'1", 240. He's James Conner to me. He's such a physical, bruising back. I think for RB1 this year, it's clearly one of Cameron Christmas or Xavier Powell. Those were the 2 guys going into the year who I felt like were the top guys, and that has not changed. They are both awesome. In terms of the breakout star, it's Tamario Harold at Nebraska. 7.5 yards a pop as a true sophomore, so he's not draft eligible after this year, but certainly a name to watch, and if he continues to play this well, his ratings are going to go up. Kenan Cunningham from Washington, the other guy who I think has a chance to be a super high pick, who's lived up to it. The wide receiver list is crazy. In the top 5 in terms of yards, we have 2 players from San Diego State and 2 guys from NIU. Of that group, I think Satius Moore is probably the best NFL prospect there. The best long-term prospect, though, is probably redshirt freshman Amar Simpkins at NIU. I think he enters the portal this year, and he's one of the best players available in the portal. Franco Flower, tight end at UNLV, he's a 75, but if you can play, you can play. I'm not concerned about that overall rating. Matthew Murray with the 11 touchdowns at East Carolina, he's definitely in the mix to be a high pick at some point. Jamari Kane-Cervantes at Akron. TK Dicer, super high projected pick going into the year. I think he's wide receiver 1 in this draft class right now. Caleb Gassing from Tennessee, I think, is also in the mix. I think unlike previous years, though, there's not that many clear first-round guys right now at wide receiver, so I think that's going to make that position especially interesting as we go into the second half of the year. Let's check out the defensive side of the ball. Some interesting storylines here. We'll start with the ACC. Carmen Drake, as I mentioned, is obviously in the mix with the year he's had. We talked about the Duke edge rushers. Fernell Edwards, elite sack production. does not have elite tools. Cabal Monroe, elite tools, lacks the production. But this year, Monroe has 4 sacks. He's been really good. I think if he keeps this up, he goes in the first round. In terms of college football's overall sack leaders, Willie Fomagonhe has 9.5, and Nicholas Champion has 8.5. These guys are hybrid, edge, off-ball linebacker types. I think they both could be high picks, although Fomagonhe does have another year of eligibility after this one. Kaysen Robertson of Notre Dame's been a breakout star, 6'3", 285. He's big with elite production. I think he's looking like a first-rounder right now. Aaron Wagonley, we talked about him at the beginning of the year. He's been good, but not great. I think still good enough to go in the first round. And then in the secondary, Nathan Dawsey, in terms of the playmaking. Obviously, we got to see him firsthand at Louisville. I don't know if he has the physicals to go in the first round, but he certainly has the ball skills. And then I think the most polarizing defensive back prospect is Isaiah Spellman at Texas. 6'3", great ball skills, but super inconsistent in coverage. Tied for the SEC lead in catches allowed. So not a great cover player right now, but the ball skills are elite. And you cannot teach 6'3" at corner. So next episode, we'll be playing against Duke. I think that's going to be the only game we end up playing in the next episode. I think that's just kind of how I'm going to space it out, as that gets its own episode. And then after that, we'll do 2 games per through the rest of the regular season. So that'll wrap things up here for the Season 1 recruiting special. Let me know what you thought down below. What would you like to see changed for Season 2? Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.